What is up, adventurers, and welcome to a brand new ShawnSetGO video. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about the sunsetting of the War Within and further into Midnight, as well as some additional content talking about, well, the addition of the future Classic Plus and what could be coming with that, and the conversation surrounding that topic. But there's a reason why I haven't been playing a whole lot of WoW as in the past month or so, and that's because I've been playing a lot of Project Zomboid. So if you do enjoy some of that content and some of the survival content that involved, we also have an alt channel where you can catch some of that content, just see if it's content you enjoy, as well as talking about what surrounds that stuff. But more about WoW, let's get back into it. So this video is going to be talking specifically about how do we stay engaged in WoW. Right now, I would say WoW is in a state of, at least the War Within is, a state of, well, there's still something to do, there's something to work toward, but you could probably be doing nothing, or you could probably got to where you needed to months ago and you didn't miss much. But there's a lot of stuff coming with 11.2.7, and a lot of people are, well, preparing for a lot of things coming with the December patch. So let's see what this post says. This says, with the Midnight hype train fueling its engines, I'm curious what keeps you playing WoW. I'm a player who has bought every expansion since Legion. However, I generally only play the game for a month or two. I generally get to the point of the first raid, clear once, kind of fizzle out. Due to my short time period, I haven't really found a guild or any friends in the game. Kind of just tag along with IRL friends who also play. And I've seen this a lot with players, and there's actually a really good TikToker, maybe I can find them, who's mentioned this exact thing. Like, I can't find a guild. There's not really a community keeping me on or in the game. So why do anything beyond just what I want to do and then bounce? I think that's fine. And I think most guilds, even like as much as a guild can be like, hey, it's a casual guild, you know, play if you want to, you don't have to be online every single day. At a certain point, any guild's going to have a, like, you got to log in, you got to do something for the guild. Otherwise, there's not really a point, and you're just filling a space that you're not really utilizing. So I've crafted, doesn't seem fun. I don't fully understand the market. Progressing my rotation efficiency is only fun for a couple of days and tends to come near the end of the time of the expansion. Pet battles seem lame, which I think they're all but going away for most people who didn't really do them. Mount farming is tedious at best. Leveling alts is just a waste of time when I could go play another game I enjoy off the bat. I do really enjoy the first month or so of WoW when I hop back in. I just don't know how to keep that magic alive. What do you do that keeps you logging in? What do you get from WoW that you did not get from another game? This person says, I don't do anything I don't want. I play almost daily. I don't force myself to play. If I don't feel like it, I don't do guild raids because I don't have that much time to play. Legion Remix and housing in 6 weeks. I'll be busy for another few months. I think this is honestly the strategy for most people when it comes to an end of an expansion, especially. There's not really a whole lot to do in it, but stuff to look forward to, perhaps. I would say the War Within has been unlike most expansions in that there's not just a wait for a pre-patch, that there is something to look forward to, in that you can work towards stuff for housing and do stuff in that regard. I think that's definitely set itself apart to have something within it. I would say this Midnight hype train has been a bit tedious in that it seems like we had a very staggered, very scattered sort of release, like with all these press releases and interviews and shows and whatnot, where we got a bunch of information. A lot of things have been confirmed. A lot of things have been, hey, it's here. And I think Blizzard is putting the information out there for a reason, right? Part of me, if you think about like a sort of scatterbrain a little bit right now, but if you think about housing being put on the PTR, you might think of it as just like, oh, they're trying to get more hype surrounding it. I honestly think this is a test of seeing if people are okay with housing at its current state. Like, is it enough to where people are satisfied with its current state to be a base release for the time of December? It being released before the expansion was a insane surprise. It also makes me think that they need us to have housing ready before the expansion. Like, there's something that housing is going to be like important to in regards to the expansion, and we can't just be going into it and doing the expansion content. So that's part of my mind or where it goes, but also it's like, wow, maybe they're just kind of like halfway pointing the release of Midnight because there's not going to be much after that. So I think that this 11.2.7 patch is going to be basically the last significant bit that we're going to get. And there's a degree of interest in that. I think there's something important with that. But I also think that Brawlers Guild, as interesting as it is very much it was good, but redoing it doesn't necessarily bring back that doesn't exist now. Like now you can just redo it, and it's no matter what, it's not going to be as good. But there's more to it. Okay, so with time walking, the first one was successful. People enjoyed doing that. They improved the system. I think getting more mounts across the time instead of it just being a 4-week commitment is positives. There's good things. The whole thing of it being Shadowlands, I don't know if that's going to be a positive for many people. I think nostalgia is a weird beast in that people will enjoy the fact that it's much easier to get stuff that's been very difficult to go back to get. But simultaneously, those things were all just things that have been done before, whether it's very recently to not as recently. At the same time, filling the space in between is very important. There is something important about that. But as of right now, we're talking about 2 months time, right? What about the season 3 rotation? So this says anybody struggling with wanting to play Mythic Plus and then going to look at the dungeons this season and logging off. I'm not sure what is this season, but there seems to be less fun, good dungeons in this pool. I recognize not every season has 100% bangers, but when I'm looking at grinding keys, this is my thought. City of Echoes. Okay, I guess. Not my favorite. DPS seems to be really struggled now on the second boss mechanics. Dawnbreaker. So sick of this from season 1. Tazavesh. Jesus, this dungeon really sucks. At least it's not Gambit. Halls of Atonement. This dungeon sucks hard, but at least it isn't Streets or Gambit. Tazavesh, Gambit. Can't wait for people to spread out on the second boss. Floodgate. Legit, this dungeon burned me out. Season 2. Priory, same as Floodgate. Ecodome. Okay, I like this dungeon. So all the people in this post going, this is why people shouldn't be the guidance of what a dungeon pool is, right? And we've been through this conversation multiple times. It's like, does recycled content, whether fixed, tuned, changed, put back into the game, does that overall improve the game, or does it just keep things as idle as possible? If you look at any graph when it comes to Blizzard releases, especially classic, if you look at any of the classic releases, you'll see how they'll start extremely high and then drop down at a staggering rate. As much as they can maybe curve up a bit, they're still going down. And from top to bottom, there's always going to be that through line where it's gonna go down, and it's gonna go down at a pretty quick rate. And so it seems like recycled content has been to, I guess, hold the line as much as possible as it seems to be going down. But no matter what, there is an expiration date to the game. This is the natural course of an MMO, granted, but I can't help but to think, my personal thoughts on this is that there is a better way to, instead of having a down line, instead have a flat line where it plateaus and just continues on. And I think a good example is something like Season of Discovery. Whereas Season of Discovery had initially a really large player base and then tanked and dropped down because a lot of people, once you implemented things like level 40, weren't as interested or weren't really interested in how they changed the formula. It wasn't what they were expecting. I think a lot of people jumped in maybe expecting what is supposed to be Classic Plus now, and it's not. And because of that, it dropped down, but people who stuck around or held on, and then you start to see that flatline, that plateau, because they really started to cook and get it to where it was. This is why I think something like Classic Plus actually became to be, because they realized, hey, once we start actually doing what people were expecting in the beginning, people stick around. And so all I'm saying is, as far as when it comes to preventing that tanked player base, it seems like really cooking, really not just iterating, but actually reforging. Is that a bad word? I think it's a bad word in this, honestly. I think when they actually cook, people want to stick around. So I do hope that 11.2.7 is enough for people to want to stick around, but it's kind of more of the same of what we've been seeing. It builds the hype in the sense that you go, oh man, I have so much on my list to do. But time and time again, we see that this only does it for as long as people are actively pursuing their chase item, whatever that might be, their glow in the dark swizzle stick, and then they leave. So something needs to change here. This to me is not the ever like circular argument of, well, RuneScape did it and they were released, but people forget that, like, why can't we just be like RuneScape? RuneScape did it this way, like this, that was fine. People forget that when old school RuneScape was released, it was good, population tanked, and then they realized, oh, we need to do something, just like Season of Discovery, and then it started getting better. Things started improving. They started doing things that old school RuneScape didn't have, just like Classic, where they originally said no changes, and now Season of Discovery was all the random bits of changes, and they're like, okay, maybe this is where we need to go. I think Blizzard is squeezing the Classic thing dry, but there's no reason we can't compare this to current retail WoW. That's all I'm saying. I think that needs to happen, and especially when we have events like holidays that have devolved into a daily, non-challenging boss fight. You spam on as many alts as you can to get a mount from a goodie bag that fills your inventory with a bunch of unvenderable garbage you need to now throw out manually. This is by 38 DEDO. Says, is this what holidays are meant to be now? I remember back in the quote-unquote good old days when the Dark Moon Fair showed up in Goldshire. It wasn't even a spooky island. It was legit just fun little excuse to socialize, or when Headless Horsemen showed up to burn the town and people gathered to. Last Brewfest, I had Fens who got the new copter mount pretty early. I envied them because I ended up having to do the boss on 8 different characters each day for almost 2 entire weeks before getting it. Is this what I'm going to have to do again? To get the new Headless Horseman mount, 2 weeks of chores. Is it supposed to be a cool holiday event where we're meant to look forward to? I think Blizzard can do better if they try. And the thing is, I think a lot of people think that what this person is asking is you need to increase the drop rate, or the opposite folks who go, well, if you just decrease it and then only a few people will get it, like the 1 or 2 people who get it in a particular span of an event. They think that's what they're asking for. It really isn't. I think Blizzard can do better if they try. I know this is a pointless rant, but I feel like these once a year chores are better off not existing at this point if they aren't trying to make you engage or trying to make them engaging because it's fun only because you want the new cosmetic reward without having to wait until next year to get it. Honestly, I think the whole FOMO thing is honestly, it's been changed. People think it's gone because there are so many items. The FOMO feels less important for maybe one particular item, but I think Blizzard really went a FOMO in a different way route. That's kind of put a like, hey, this is working idea in their mind when it's really not. And so the next thing is going to be, I mean, when we think about 11.2.7 is going to be, what's the first FOMO housing item going to be? I think it's probably going to be surrounding the meta achievement, most likely, if I had to guess, just because it just seems like the first obvious one. But I'm kind of at a stage where I think that Blizzard is trying something new in that they are trying to have multiple versions and things of WoW exist, but also still trying to keep everybody in those spaces and not putting as much effort to put them into other spaces. And I think that's where it seems to be changing the most on a silver lining with Midnight, is that it seems like everything, like all roads lead to Rome. It seems like eventually we're going to be at a point where everything leads to Midnight. Like maybe like the Legion or the remix that people are calling it. The end of it is going to be like breaking the time ways to where somehow like Legion Remix connects to Classic Plus in a way. Something breaks, right? So maybe that's like a thing that possibly happens. But what are your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comments. As far as with these moments, where do you feel like Blizzard is going wrong? What do you feel like they're doing right? Do you feel like this is at least something better than nothing? Let me know. I'm kind of in a state of listen, I want a reason to play. I just don't want a cosmetic reason to play. I want something to play forward. And that's why I think any efforts I put in are always going to be towards housing. And that's probably it. But right now, it seems like that's always going to coincide eventually with the current game content and just kind of pursuing at the highest level or legacy content in some weird kind of way. So let me know. Like this video if you liked it. Subscribe to the page while you're at it. And of course, if you enjoy this content and want to see it in some of the alternate content that I also stream, like Project Zomboid, check out my channel, more ShawnSetGO, as well as my housing community. We have a Hearths and Crafts housing community that I plan on making, or I've made and plan on making a bigger thing as time goes on. But until next time, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.